Hi, my name is Hector Duenas, and today I will be talking about the travel budget app. So the budget app, it's pretty much an application in which you are able to plan a trip. There are three main features in this application. In order to plan a trip, the first thing is you must create a travel budget. The second is usually before you travel to that area, you want to get a little bit of information on that travel area, such as what the map looks like of that area, the current time zone of that area. The third thing of planning a trip is always remembering uh, places you want to travel in that area. So, starting out with the class diagram of my application, when the user first opens up the application, they will be sent to the view controller. On the view controller, there are three buttons. Each button will direct the user to three different locations, uh, to three different controllers. If the user decides to click on the budget list button, they will be sent to the table view controller. On the table view controller, there's a table. It's a table view that has multiple cells on it, in which a user is able to either add a budget item and add the price that they want to set, how much money they want to set aside for that item. Um, they are also able to delete that row that they've selected. They are able to delete all the rows if they choose that they want to restart over on their budget. If the user creates a budget item and clicks on that row, that row is linked up to the budget table view cell. That budget table view cell has an item name and an item price that is passed on, and it also creates a budget item entity in the core data, which it has the variables of a name, which is a string, and a price, which is a string. Um, Once it does all of that, and the user clicks on that cell, they will be sent to the item view controller, where the user is able to see how much they have set aside for that item, and if they want to edit, how much money they could either add more, take away from that item. They're able to do that and save it, and it'll save to a core data. If the user decides to go back to home button, they'll press the home button to get back to the view controller. On the view controller, from there they could go either to the travel or the goals section. If they decide to go to the travel view, they'll be sent to a travel view controller. On the travel view controller, there is a My Map MK map view on there. There's also a text field in which the user is able to pretty much search for any city in the world, and it'll show them that city. There's also two other text fields at the bottom in which the user is able to type in area such as Europe or America, and the location in either one of those places, and that uh, and by doing that, and by them pressing the button to find to get the current date and time of that location. Um, with that information, it sends an API call and it gets the JSON data, and that JSON data is put into a DT string, and it will display the data for the user. Now, once the user has done all of this and they want to go and look at their goals, they will go back to their home page, which is the view controller. And then from the view controller, they'll go to the goals view controller. On the goals view controller, there's a UI image, and there are several different buttons for the user to either save an image, add an image, to view the next image that they've saved or previous image that have saved. This The goals view controller is pretty much a primary area of where the user is going to go and see what places they want to go to and stuff like that. All of the all of the images are saved into the core data also as an entity called image goal. On the image goal, there is a name and an image. The name is a string, the image is the NS data. Um, but yeah, this is pretty much the simple class diagram for my application. For my application, I had two model view controller diagrams. The first one is for um, the travel budget MVC, which pretty much the view will display a table filled with rows of items that the user has added for their budget. Um, if the table view is connected to the with the data source on the controller, if the user decides to add a new item to their budget, the user will press the add button, and that add button will go to the controller, and from the controller it goes to add a record to the model, which is pretty much the core data of the application. And on that model, there's a name and a price as the variables for the model. Also, if the user decides to click on a row, it will send the user to a detail view controller by segue. The second model view controller on this application is on my travel goals. For the travel goals, pretty much the view has image, a button, but it has two buttons that will allow the user to rotate from the current image to the next or previous image. It will also allow the user to delete all the images or save a new current image that they've added on there. If the user decides to add an image, it'll go to the controller. On the controller, it'll go to the model and it will add to the data object of the model, which again is an entity in the core data. It will also be they will also be able to delete all the images on on the uh, on the application by deleting all the objects in the models. So whenever the user wants to create a travel budget, the user, when they open up the app, they will click on the travel budget button. They will then be taken to the travel budget list. On that list, it'll have every item that they've added, every expense that they've set money aside for or want to set money aside for. If they want to add a new item to the list, they will click the plus button to add a budget item. On that budget item, it's going to ask them to add the name of the item and the price that they think that they're going to budget for. After that, the user will then reload the table, uh, and so it'll have the current information. If the user decides to click on item, it's going to send them to the item view controller. On the item view controller, it'll tell them the item name and the price of the item. They are also able to change the price that they've originally set to either more or less than what they anticipated to accommodate for new changes. When the user wants to plan a travel, they will click the plan travel button. On the plan travel button, it pretty much asks the user what they want to travel. They're able to put any information or any city that they want on the search bar. Once the user decides to go to that area, it'll pretty much display that city and the streets around it. Also, another thing that the user is able to do is they're able to find the time zone of that area and the current time. So let's say they want to go to Athens in Europe. they'll put Europe in the area and Athens in the location, and then they will press the get time button, and the current time in Athens in Europe will be displayed on the screen. So the last thing that the user is able to do is to click the destination goal button, and it will take them to destination goal screen, where they are able to add images from their phones, of places of where they want to travel or go to in certain cities. By doing that, they're able to cycle through each image so that they don't forget on things they want to, places they want to go and see before they leave that location, or possibly as motivation for future trips. After finishing the app, I noticed that there were some few areas where I could improve on if I choose to go on and create this application to actually be in the App Store. One of the improvements is in creating a budget, which was reloading the table after adding an item. I noticed that when adding an item, after a user adds an item, the table does not really reload. The user has to press the reload button for the table to reload itself. Another area of improvement is on when the user wants to plan a trip. And the improvement is by making multiple API calls without going back to the home page. So if a user makes one API call and they want to make another one, they would have to go back to the home page and then go back into the plan travel in order to make another API call. Uh, the last and final improvement that I saw that I could have improved on was in the destination goals page. Was I noticed that whenever I would press the next or previous button multiple times to cycle through the images, sometimes there was a small delay or glitch in which some images would either get skipped or they would be out of order. So that's one thing that I could possibly go back on, improve on how to cycle better through the core data to improve faster image load up and the correct order of the images. So as I was building this application, the lessons that I learned were that planning and designing an app requires a lot of thought, especially if there's a lot of features that need to be integrated. These features, they either talk to one another, or if they don't talk to one another, how are you going to separate them? And also, what's the most efficient way of doing this? The second thing that I learned was how to work with core data for app storage management. Creating the budget for the user, and each individual user would be different. I would have to think of what they would need as far as creating a budget. This last and final thing that I learned was how to implement a model view controller design pattern for the app so that the view does not really talk to the model, but all the work is done on the model and the controller versus the view itself. Working on this final project, it has really helped me appreciate everything that I've learned throughout my computer science degree, and how I was able to use coding, design patterns, UML diagrams, all to create this application. Something that, that's not just theoretical, but I could actually use on a phone and hopefully later on develop into an actual application that can be in the App Store. So, yeah, thank you very much